Have you ever felt like nobody was there? Have you ever felt forgotten in the middle of nowhere? Have you ever felt like you could disappear? Like you could fall and no one would hear? Well, let that lonely feeling wash away. Maybe there's a reason to believe you'll be okay. 'Cause when you don't feel strong enough to stand, you can reach out your hand. And oh, someone will come running, and I know they'll take you home. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. Lift your head and look around, you will be found. You will be found. You will be found. You will be found.
She is a dog who came to the United States from Lebanon. They had her for a short time, and then she got spooked by a sound near her house and was able to escape the property. And then one day we got a call from Linfield Animal Control, so we went down to the area. We set a trap for her, and then quickly after that she moved on. Flash forward to maybe a week or so later, and she appeared in a neighborhood in Saugus. Some property owners called us and were kind enough to let us set up a trap there. And that very first night, she actually went into the trap, and unfortunately she beat the door and then went off the radar again for a few weeks. And then again, we got a call on another property in Saugus and had been by their pool sleeping. We set a trap and then came back again, and finally, for the first time, which was 49 days out, we trapped her. And this particular home had just recently lost their dog, Holly. And I think for them, it was very healing for them to be able to help bring this dog back. We had so many people participate in that, but Saugus Animal Control, Linfield, Everett, State Police, so many entities. Unfortunately, Arya is so terrified of people that she escaped a few more times, and so we had to trap her a few more times. Flash forward to April of this year, and we got a call from her owner that she had escaped again. Many calls to various towns, police, animal control, Danvers, Topfield, Groveland, Georgetown, Ipswich. She was all over the North Shore. One afternoon late, we got a call from a family. Had her sleeping under their apple tree in their yard all day long. So we went to the area. I walked around the corner with her, feeding her. And then I said, shut the gate. And so the gate was shut. She started to become a little bit frantic at that point, trying to find her way out. And I just followed her throughout the yard. She calmed down a bit. And then one of our volunteers came, who happens to run a business, a doggy daycare business. Throughout these weeks of her being missing, the family kind of came to terms, unfortunately, with the fact that due to their illness and so forth, they weren't equipped to keep caring for her. So then the search started to partner with rescue or somebody who might be able to take her on, knowing the flight risk that she is. Our volunteer came on board, helped house her, take care of her, and then ultimately in the end, she adopted her. So with her adoption, we kind of decided maybe, her new owner really decided maybe she needs a new name, a new lease on life. So she's now become Annie. To see her kind of come out of her little shell is really rewarding. Her ending is a happy one, and we were thankful to be a part of it.
At the end of March, Joey was newly adopted, and on his first day, he slipped his harness, and that began his 81-day adventure. During his first few weeks on the run, he remained fairly close to his adopter's home, and a trap was set by MDM. He then went off the radar for several weeks. In mid-May, a very nice property owner in Lawrence reached out to MDM to report that Joey had been visiting her yard and her neighbor's yard. MDM went to Lawrence and set up a feeding station immediately, and sure enough, Joey showed up that night, and a trap was set the following night. After almost a week of Joey avoiding a traditional style trap, MDM decided to switch to a kennel style trap, and Joey was safely trapped in May of 2021. But he did not stay trapped for very long. He instantly began looking for a way out of the kennel trap, and in the 15 minutes it took for the nearest MDM volunteer to arrive on scene, Joey had scaled the trap and broke through the netting. Based on camera footage we have, we know we missed Joey by 2 minutes. So it was back to the drawing board for MDM. The kennel trap was partially dismantled, and the work began to build trust back up with Joey to hopefully trap him again. Over the next 3 weeks, food was left every night, and as Joey became more and more comfortable back at the trap, volunteers gradually reassembled the trap and secured full fence panels as a roof to ensure that Joey could not scale the trap and escape from the top. And then on the third night of Joey entering the trap was set live, and thankfully his adventure ended when the door closed. Overall, I would say that Joey was one of the more challenging cases that I have personally worked on as a volunteer. Previously, I had only had to use a kennel trap on one other dog. And the other thing that made Joey a bit of a challenging case is that some well-meaning people really tried to help. And I think what people sometimes don't understand is that when a plan is in place, just leaving the dog alone and letting the dog go into the trap is really what's best for the dog. Because when well-meaning people push the dog a little too much and make the dog feel a bit threatened, needing to go into a little bit more of survival mode, that's when we see dogs leave an area. So Joey was a classic case of that. He stayed very close to where he initially went missing in Andover. And then once he felt that there was a little too much pressure in the area, he decided that he was going to leave the area and ended up 3.5 miles away in Lawrence. The story of Joey also speaks to the commitment of our volunteers. As challenging as this case was, I think all of the volunteers who worked on this case would tell you that they would absolutely do it all over again.
I had Bay for about 9 months, and we were going away on vacation as a family. Bay went with my brother, decided he would take her. Before we had her, she was a very, very, very skittish, shy dog. When my brother had his back turned, she escaped off of a porch, dug under a fence, and was gone. So she went missing from Framingham, Mass, June 26th. 2016. I remember getting that phone call when I was in Washington, and I was heartbroken because there was nothing I could do. We called missing dogs. I believe the next day I reached out to them, and they started helping my friend and my brother get posters up right away. So all summer, my family and I drove around Framingham, Ashland, Natick, Wayland, just in hopes of catching a glimpse of her. In my head, I used to like to imagine her living somewhere in a barn at night, sneaking in, sleeping with the horses, and leaving in the morning. I was at work in Framingham in April and got a phone call from the previous owner of the rescue organization. Bay had been wearing a collar, a red collar, and was microchipped. And the microchip was still there, thank goodness. I was blown away. And she had given me the animal control officer's number in Needham, Massachusetts, and I called him. And I honestly don't know who was happier, me or him. He was just ecstatic. He had gotten a phone call, I believe it was a couple years ago, from a family in Needham saying there was a dog that kept pooping in their yard. Come to April, she showed back up. Animal control called missing dogs. And over, I believe it was a week, they tracked her, found her routine, and they had trapped her once in one type of kennel, which she escaped from. So they had to bring in the big guns, and they built a big kennel, a chain link kennel in these people's yard. And they lured her in eventually over the next few days with food. They trapped her. So I went to pick her up, very, very anxious about picking her up. But in my heart, I knew when she saw me, she was still going to be petrified. She was, a nervous dog when I lost her. She'd been gone for 5 years. There was no recollection of who I was. Her eyes were just searching for the nearest escape. I sat with her in the car for a little while. I petted her. She calmed down a little bit. So then I brought her in the house. Once she was in the house and she saw the other dogs and I lay down on the floor, she started to come over to me, and then her tail started wagging when my daughter came home that afternoon. She walked in the door. It was immediate recognition. She was jumping all over her and so happy to see her. So I do know that she remembers us. It just took her a little while to get rid of her fear. I feel incredibly fortunate to have had so many people in the end looking out for her and helping, the Needham Animal Hospital, the missing dogs in Massachusetts. I think about it all the time. It's just a crazy story. And I used to imagine in my head what it would be like if I ever got her back. And I think it's better than I imagined.
You will be found, so let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. Lift your head and look around. You will be found.